Watch and learn to the most comprehensive and thorough discussion of the topic, the giftedness, presented to you by the Group 10. Our first presenter, Mr. Rodel Gordiones, pasok!
Good day, and to you as well, Mama Kabenta, good day. We are from the Group 10 and we are tasked and obliged to report about giftedness. So in this topic, we are four in this group. We have Miss Justine Crospero, yours truly, Gordiones Rodel, Miss Nera Mary Grace, and of course, Mr. Hubert Torrentira. Now, to proceed with our learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, we will be able to first define giftedness. Next, explain the different traits of giftedness. Then, evaluate the types and areas of giftedness. And lastly, analyze the challenges of the giftedness. Okay, our first question is, who is gifted and talented? By definition, gifted means having extraordinary intellectual ability and creativity. Okay, when we say gifted, ma-interlink nato siya sa term nga advanced or bright kamao. Pero, ang two definitions sa gifted is kanang innate nga characteristics sa bata bitaw nga. For example, as a child, he has a potential nga mukanta. As in, kanang mo singer siya, for example, ganahan siya mic, kamao siya mo tono, naa siya sa tono kung mukanta. At a very young age, bata niya siya. And somehow, ug ka na mapadayon na, it will become and nurtured to be a talent. Okay, by definition again, talent is having exceptional skills and ability in a specific area such as art, music, science, and language. Okay, let's stick to some kanang gift nga kamao mo kanta. Ang bata, for example, bata po siya, mga at the age of 2, na magunit na siya mic, musabay-sabay na sa mga kanta, sa tono, na siya sa rhythm kung magunit sa mic, kana is a gift, innate na dyan na sa bata nga naan niya. Anya, for example, kung kana nga talent niya, kanang kamao mo kanta, ma-develop bitaw, ma-nurture pa sa parents, o kung suportaan lang, i-enroll siya into music class, then kana nga gift, mahimo na siyang talent eventually, nga makapa-nurture pa niya, o magamit pa niya in the future. Now, to proceed with, giftedness means that a person, usually a child, has the abilities that are significantly developed beyond those of their peers. Okay, ang kanipong gift, being gifted, mura jud kag special, lahi ka sa uban kay ikaw nga bata, makit-an kag potential ana nga field. For example, si Leroy, let's butang si Leroy. If you have seen or if you have still remember an interview with Corina Sanchez katong 2-year-old nga bata nga very smart kay kamao siya sa tanan, kaibaw siya sa tanan flag sa world. Okay, ipakita lang nimong flag and he will be able to recognize what flag is. And then also sa mga presidents at 2 years old pa to siya, 2 years old kamao na siya adto nga butang. Now, knowing nga 2 years old pa to siya, maka-amaze ka kay usually ang mga 2 years old dili pa gyud nakamao sila mo. Ang uban gali maglusod pag storya, di ba? Maglusod pag sampot sa mga words o mag-pronounce sa mga words. Pero compared to Leroy at 2 years old, kaybaw na siya adto nga mga butang, which is very impressive. And from that, og kadto nga ability ni Leroy og ma-nurture pa to, og masuportahan lang jud sa parents. Kadto mahimo na jud siyang talent kay innate gyud to sa bata, wala gyud makakuha adto niya. Next, mga tanaputag, what causes giftedness? Kanong naay mga bata nga gifted? So, from this topic, from this presentation, we have two factors, the biological and social environmental factors. But to proceed first with our biological factors. Psychologically, giftedness, if believed to be a gift that has a genetic origin and is at least partly innate, and which may not clear at an early stage, but rather an inclination that a child may possess the gift. Okay, being gifted, dili pasabot nga nice set of age bracket nga at the 2 years old dapat kamo na siya ani, or at an early age of 1 dapat kamo na siya ani. No, because being gifted dili po na siya ingon nga as in makit-an jud nimo ang potential sa bata dayon. Usually nasa from range na 2 to 5 years old. According to my research, 2 to 5 years old dira nimo makita ang gift sa bata og naa gyud siya. And then muna giingon nga inclination that the child possess may gift, kanang dili jud siya ingon nga na fixed nga age nga makita nimo sa bata nga talented, I mean gifted siya or not. Okay, next. Studies have indicated that individuals with extremely high mathematical abilities have frontal lobes of the brain which are more differentiated compared to average students. Okay, kana kuno mga gifted children or gifted students nga anad kayo sa when it comes to mathematics, they have different frontal lobes compared sa average students. Kaya nga na daan, unsa ang functions of frontal lobes? Frontal lobes are very important for expressive language, for voluntary movement, and also the capacity to learn, organize, and self-assess. Munang lahi ang gifted nga student sa average students when it comes to mathematical abilities. Next, neuropsychological studies claim that in information processing, gifted individuals have enhanced brain activity localized in the right hemisphere. Okay, when we say gifted, mas dali kuno sila ma-internalize o mo-sink in ang mga information compared sa mga average students. That's why, gitawag po sila ang gifted, diba? They have the capacity to stand out sa ilahang peers kumpara sa kanang mga kaedad nila. Mo po na isa sa mga karakteristik sa usa ka gifted nga student. To proceed with our next factor, which is the social and environmental factors. External variables are defined as factors that influence a person's decision-making process. In particular, the influence of the peers, family, and school environment. So, nga maka-influensya man ang peers sa ka-gifted child? Ikaw nga as a gifted child, if you have a lot of peers or friends, it's either ikaw ang ma-pressure or it's sila ang ma-pressure nimo. Let's put it this way. Ikaw nga bright, ug amigo nimo to mga average students, it's either ma-pressure sila nga to strive harder, which is a good pressure ha, kay para for their betterment man sad na. Pero kung di ba to nila kaya sa ilang abilities, ilang cognitive ability, least maglisod man sad sila, di ba? It's either molayo sila nimo. Or ikaw, or either way, ikaw ang ma-pressure nga to fit in sa ilang group nga, to do things nga you're not really comfortable with. Mo na influence sa peers nimo as a gifted child. Now, when it comes to family is a factor under the social environmental factor because ikaw nga gifted child, kung ikaw masuportaan sa mong family, friends, or teachers to develop or enhance your gift, that will become eventually a talent nga, which will be used as for self-benefit, rapod ikaw ra maka-benefit ana og imong family. Kay kung dili ka masuportan ana, opposite ang mahitabo. It's either mas stagnant ang imuhang hibaw-an or makontento ka na nga gift na lang nimo or ma-develop pagyud na into a more useful one. Next, sa school environment. Nganong factor man ang school environment? Okay, ikaw nga gifted child, for example, you're very advanced when it comes to mathematics. Yeah, you're still, ang imong edad bagay paghihapon sa pang grade 2, ana nga klase, bagay mong edad sa pang grade 2, pero ang imong ability to think and to analyze mathematics is pang grade 10. How come that be? So kana ikaw lahi dyan ang factor sa school environment kay unsaon man nila pag tudlo nimo ana nga subject sa pang grade 2 nga subject sa math kung ikaw anad na kay kana murag maboring yan jud bitaw katunon na. That's why ang school environment is a factor of social and environmental factors in a gifted child. So next topic will be explained by my co-members. So that would be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gorjones, for a report. And now, our next presenter, we have Mr. Hubert Torrentera. Pasok!
To our subject teacher, Ma'am Joylyn Macabenta, to my classmates, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good day to each and everyone. By the way, I would like to introduce myself. I am Hubert A. Torrentera, Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Social Studies 2A, Group 10, and I would like to discuss about the traits of giftedness, one of the subtopic of the main topic, giftedness. First, before we will have a formal discussion of this topic, we will try to have a simple and short self-realization. I know that we already encountered a question: are all individuals gifted? Maybe others will answer yes, and others will answer no. For us have a broad or widen our understanding about this question, we will try to have a simple analogy of this question. if someone or somebody will give you a gift, probably that person will put his or her gift into a gift wrapper or a paper bag so that you will be surprised in opening it, diba? And you open as you see it. If it is useful, then you will use it. If not, you will set aside. Just like in our own personality, maybe shall we say God already give us a gift, or it's our innate, we have already innate gift that we really need to discover, to develop. Especially, we should know the traits that could featurize that kind of gift, so that we will be aware that we are gifted pala, no? So now in our discussion, we will try to enumerate the traits of a gifted person in the different aspect in life, so that we in ourselves, we will be aware, oh, I am gifted pala in that aspect. I have these traits in that particular aspect, so I can consider myself I am gifted in that particular aspect. Now we'll start. The traits of giftedness. No gifted individual is exactly the same, each with his own unique patterns and traits. There are many traits and gifted individuals have in common, but no gifted learner exhibits traits in every area. So, ladies and gentlemen, out of this statement, we can infer that every individuals are unique. Of course, we already know that we are all unique from each other. We may excel from this aspect, but loser or beaten to the other one. We will also always be reminded that there is no monopoly of knowledge, skills, talents, abilities, because nobody's perfect. We have strengths and weaknesses. Maybe we have very high IQ, but very low EQ or the emotional quotient. So it really depends on us how we consider or treat ourselves. So always remember that we are all unique, and there is no monopoly of talents or skills or abilities, because no gifted learner exhibit traits in every area. So not all learner can be best of all aspects. So maybe it's one or two of them. Now, this list of traits may help you better understand whether or not a child is gifted. So for us to be guided, for us to be aware, know the different traits that a particular child is performing well in that particular aspect. So we need to consider, to understand, to enumerate these traits, so that it's easy for us to say, to conclude that this person is gifted in that particular aspect in life. First is the cognitive aspect. So we will read it one by one. The keen power of abstraction, the interest in problem solving and applying concepts, the veracious or somewhat a clear, true and accurate, an early reader, the large vocabulary, the intellectual curiosity, the power of critical thinking. So if the person has the ability to think critically, can rationalize the positive and the negative, the advantage and the disadvantages, in every situations. So we can say that that person is cognitively gifted. Skepticism, so have doubts in mind and have the willingness to clear that doubts, clear that questions in mind that he possesses. Then self-criticism, of course, the self-awareness. You can criticize yourself if you are aware of it. Then the persistent, goal-directed behavior, the independence in work and study. So the person who are cognitively gifted, they are independent in work. Then diversity of interest and abilities. So out of these traits, these are the determinants that this person is gifted in the cognitive aspect. So if the following traits are present in that particular child, then we can say, oh, that child is cognitively gifted. There's no question about that. Then it greatly based how the person perform or works using his brain or intellectual capacity. So the cognitive aspect is focusing more on our how we use our brain, how we deal something using our brain or intellectual capacity. So there are many traits that we can associate with that, and we need to be aware for us can determine in ourselves and also to the others, especially to the children, regarding to their development. Next, we will proceed to the creative aspect. So another first aspect is the cognitive. So if the person have that aspect, so that person could be cognitively gifted. Another is the creative aspect. If that person possess these traits like the creativeness and the inventiveness, can create, can manipulate, can produce something which is very useful. Keen sense of humor, ability for fantasy, the openness to stimuli, wide interest, intuitiveness, flexibility, open for everything, flexible in tawhana, very open for the ideas of others, open for others, and can collaborate it, then create better things. Independence in attitude and social behavior, then self-acceptance and concern for social norms, then radicalism. So if the person possesses those traits, it's easy for us to conclude, this person is creatively gifted, gifted in the creativity aspect. His creativeness, his inventiveness, and many more traits that he possessed, he showed to us, are our determinants that we can use so that we can infer that person is creatively gifted. Another thing that we will always be reminded that the last part is the radicalism. So it is a kind of person always aiming for a change. If the person is always aiming for a change, of course, he has the willingness to create something which is better and can improve the living of everybody. So that's radicalism, have the willingness to create something better. So that's the thing that we will always put in mind, put to consider, so that we can say the person that possesses it are creativity or creatively gifted. Another is the affective aspect. The affective aspect is more on emotion. So if the person are unusually emotional depth and intensity. So unusual emotional depth siya ba? Different emotional level that person. So we can say that this person have a gift in the affective aspect, have high sensitivity or empathy to the feelings of others. So very sensitive. This person can feel to the feelings of others, what the feelings of others in that particular situation. That person really feel what is the feelings of others. The high expectation of self and others, often leading to feelings of frustrations. Of course, our high feelings and expectation, it really leads to frustration, especially if those things that we expected did not come or did not meet what we expected. So there's the concept of the expectation versus reality, and it is failed. So the person have the high expectation really become frustrated talaga. We cannot deny it. Then easily wounded, need for emotional support. So emotional person are easily wounded, easily get hurt feelings, because they are sensitive. They are sensitive to themselves and they really need emotional support. So that's the important thing that we will consider, that this person is effectively gifted, is really need emotional support. An advanced level of moral judgment. So if the person have the advanced level of moral judgment, is effectively gifted because he's aware. He know the feelings of others, of what to do, and he can consider what is right or wrong through his feelings, diba? It's the conscience of somebody, diba? Our conscience really depends on the emotion that we possess. Another is idealism and the sense of justice, of course. If the person is fair, the person will become fair, especially if he feel the feelings of other. Example, feelings of being sad, or of being abused. If that person feel that sense or feelings of being abused, then she will try to do, not others will experience that. So, di ba? Fairness. I do not want this. I already experienced this feeling, so I do not want others will experience it also. So this is the affective. So always remember that in affective, it is very connected, or it is related. The main core here is our emotion. These persons are easily get frustrations, and they really need emotional support, because they greatly have different ways in handling emotions or feelings. Diba? That's affective person. Next is behavioral. So if the person is behaviorally gifted, then we can say that he is spontaneous, boundless enthusiasm, high energetic, so needs little sleep or downtime, so always energy, full of energy every day, nakamaylo, di ba? So constantly questions, insatiable curiosity, impulsive, eager, and spirited. So the person is always energetic. Energetic na siya because of curiosity. I do not want to sleep more. I just want to discover a lot. I want to know. I am curious about it. So that's the reason why the person is highly energetic, because he is constantly questions something. That's why yung behavior ba, always alert, always questioning. Then have the impulse, eager and spirited. So impulsive ning tawhana. Eager to learn, eager to discover, and spirited, have very high sense of level of kanang sense of discovering something. Perseverance, strong determination in areas of importance. Of course, this person is perseverance. Kana bang have strong determination to continue, especially if it is very important. Do not give up if he cannot achieve what he want, especially if these things that he want to achieve is very, very important to his living. So that's behavioral. Behavior is the behavior of the person. So if the person is gifted in the behavioral aspect, or you can see the following traits of the person mentioned in the behavioral aspect, then we can say that this person is gifted in this aspect. So it's tackling more on behavior. So in this aspect, we will consider the behavior of the person. The behavior is the core. So as we go back in cognitive, it is the brain. It is our intellectual capacity. Then in creativity or creative, it's about how person creatively invent or create something, manipulate something, which is for better. Then in affective, it's more on emotions, dealing more emotions. The traits are related to emotions. And of course, in behavioral, the behavior that the person performs or portray to the society, or as what we observe to his or her. Then in general, to sum up this discussion, we can say that we are all greatly different, diba? We are all unique from each other. And we'll always remember that there is no monopoly of talent, skills, abilities, and etc. It's the time, now you know that what are the traits of the different aspect of being gifted. It's time for us to discover ourselves. Are we really gifted? Or are we gifted in cognitive, affective, creative, and in behavioral aspect? So it will take the time to realize, to discover, and to develop ourselves. I think that would be all. Thank you, and God bless everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Torrentera, for your report. And now we have Miss Mary Grace Nuera for her report. Pasok!
Hey everyone, I am Grace A. Nuera, and today I will be discussing the different types of giftedness. But before that, what does it mean to be gifted? Well, if you're like most of the people, you probably think that it's all about having an exceptionally high IQ or being a child prodigy at something. Well, these are the forms of giftedness. Defining gifted as good at school is outdated and far too narrow. So, first studied by researchers George Beets and Maureen Nehart in their 1988 article Profiles of Gifted and Talented, Beets and Nehart identified 6 different types of gifted individuals according to their behaviors, feelings, and needs. So, if you're a gifted person and you wanted to know which one are you, so here are the 6 different types of giftedness. So let us start with the first type, which is the successful. So they are the most easily identifiable among these types. It may account for about 90% of the identified gifted students. So these are the individuals who learns and adapt well in the system. So that means that they are open and willing to learn new things, take new challenges, and make some adjustments, especially in their learning environment. They are well adjusted to society. That means that they are able to deal with the people around them and in life in general in a sensible manner. Generally have a high self-concept. So they hold themselves to a high standard and think highly of themselves. Lastly, they're also dependent on the system, thus less creative and imaginative, and lacks autonomy. So gifted students learn the system fast enough so as to use the minimum effort to get by. So some of the individuals belonging to this type eventually become bored with school and lose their passion for learning. So they feel like their giftedness has become their entire identity. This is because many parents, teachers makes the mistake of focusing too much on developing their intelligence, talents, and skills that it stunts their social and emotional growth, making them an ill-adjusted and unimaginative individuals. So that was the first type, which is the successful. So now let us proceed to the second type of giftedness, which is the divergently different. So they are the divergently gifted, the ones who possess high levels of creativity. So these are the students that are generally the opposite of the first type, which is the successful. So they may harbor extraordinary creative gifts as writers, composers, artists, photographers, graphic artists, or fashion designers. They are highly creative, tenacious, and unconventional. They do not conform to the system, which means that they're often not afraid of challenging others or questioning authority. Simply, they doesn't comply with the rules, the standards, and laws of school. Often have conflicts with teachers and parents. So their creative disposition puts them at odds with the traditional school system because they may exhibit behavioral problems because they feel that they doesn't fit into the unbreakable structure of a typical school day. So lastly, they get frustrated as the school system does not recognize their abilities. So often receiving little to no recognition for their giftedness, many of the students who belongs this type feel frustrated with the school setting because it stifles their creativity, overlooks their abilities, and keeps them from realizing their full potential. This is why a lot of students who belongs in this type of giftedness tends to develop delinquent behaviors or eventually drop out of schools if they do not have the support system they need in place and other positive influences in their life. So that was the second type, which is the divergently different. So now let us move on to the third type of giftedness, which is the underground. So the underground type refers to the gifted students who deny their talents or hide their giftedness in order for them to feel more included with a non-gifted peer group. So this means that these are the individuals who wanted, or they try to hide their giftedness or their talents from others because they wanted to feel more included in a particular group, and or they feel too much pressure to excel, or they dislike the intense scrutiny and attention that giftedness often brings to them. So they end up denying their full capabilities, talents, and skills, and often feel insecure, anxious, and frustrated as a result. So they are generally females who are frequently insecure and anxious as their belonging needs rose dramatically at that stage. So why does underground gifted students tend to be girls? So underground gifted students tend to be girls who are in the late elementary to early middle school age. This is when bullying is at its peak in most of the schools. So children at this age are very sensitive about fitting with their peers, friends, as they desire for belongingness and social approval starts to intensify. So, lastly, their unchanging needs often conflicts with their expectations of parents and teachers. So, this psychological tug of war may result in changes in behavior, including the withdrawal, poor academic performance, or a refusal to take part in a gifted education program. So, indeed, the students or the individuals who belong in this particular type of giftedness needs a lot of encouragement and understanding, not just only in the teachers but also to the parents as well. So that was the third type of giftedness, which is the underground. So let us now proceed to another type of giftedness, which is the dropouts. So this is characterized by angry and frustrated students whose needs have not been recognized for many years, and they feel rejected in the system. So they earned a reputation for being labeled as such because they often struggle with the feelings of anger, frustration, and depression as a result of their giftedness and their talents being overlooked or undervalued. Moreover, they express themselves by being depressed or withdrawn and responding defensively. So a student may exhibit constant anger at school system, which may have met the needs of every type of gifted children. So maybe they might be talented athletes, artists, or creator. So, but since they do not fit with the traditional school model, which only values academic excellence, so they may become bored, act out, or avoid school altogether. Furthermore, they are identified very late, therefore they are bitter and resentful due to the feelings of neglect. So, these students may require the most sensitivity and patience. So, they may come from an unstable home environment or a culture which discourages academic excellence or gifted education. So, that was the fourth type of giftedness, which is known as the dropouts. And now, let us proceed to another one or another type of giftedness. And this is the double labeled. So these are the gifted students who are physically or emotionally handicapped in some way or have a learning disability. So from the word itself, double labeled, so these are the individuals that are gifted, and at the same time, they also exhibit learning or physical disorder. So, moreover, they are not easily identifiable. So, they do not show behaviors of giftedness that can be identified in school. So, because most of them have learning disabilities such as dyslexia, dysgraphia, or dyscalculia, and so on, this makes it more difficult for them or for the school system and programs to identify them as gifted individuals. Lastly, they show signs of stress, frustration, rejection, helplessness, or isolation. So some of the students who belongs in this particular type of giftedness might experience depression or low self-esteem because they may have been tracked into remedial programs despite their giftedness. So they may also fight with their peers or wonder how they might find their place in general. So their handicap makes it more difficult for them to complete their work on time or fulfill other structured tasks as easily as other gifted students. So this makes them more easily discouraged, frustrated, and critical of themselves. So this type of students may also be impatient, stubborn, and sensitive to criticism, which only makes it important that they must be given the proper assistance to nurture their strengths and talents. So that was the fifth type of giftedness, which is the double label. So now let us proceed to the last but not the least type of giftedness, which is the autonomous learner. So, the autonomous learner are the learners who have learned to work effectively in a school system. So, autonomously gifted children are the same with the first type, which is the successful children in a way that they can perform well or excel in a traditional school system. But they are more willing to push boundaries in ways that successful gifted children are not. In addition, they do not work for the system, but rather make the system work for them. So, from the word itself, autonomous learner, so it refers to the gifted individual who are independent, conscientious, and self-reliant. So, similar to the first type, this type of giftedness often finds success and recognition because they have learned how to excel in school setting and find ways to make the system work for them and always looking for a new opportunities for themselves. Like for instance, if they are interested in trains, but their school doesn't feed this passion of them, so they may look for initiative like summer programs or extra curricular opportunities to build train set or visit stockyards. Also, they are very successful and are liked by parents, teachers, and peers. Moreover, they have a high self concept with some leadership capacity within their surroundings. So they are perceived to be a strong leaders and creative thinkers. So they seek opportunities to pursue their interests. And lastly, they accept themselves and are risk takers, which goes well with their independent and self-directed nature. So again, they are resourceful and goal-oriented. They're also natural-born leaders and are well respected by those around them. So, based from all the types of giftedness that I have mentioned a while ago, this particular type of giftedness for me is the best, because unlike most of the other types, they know that they are gifted, but they are not preoccupied with impressing other people, gaining their approval or attention, or fitting in with peers, because they have high self-concept and self-esteem, and they have such a strong sense of personal power. So that was the last type of giftedness, which is the autonomous learner. To sum up my discussion, there are 6 different types of giftedness identified by George Betts and Maureen Nehart, and these are the following. First is the successful. The second type is the divergently different. Then the underground, the dropouts, the double labeled, and lastly, the autonomous learner. That could be all, and I hope that you learned something today. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Nuera, for your report. And now, we have Miss Justin Crospiro for her report. Miss Justin, pasok!
Areas of giftedness. So giftedness is divided into 5 areas. These are the intellectually, cognitively gifted, academically gifted, creatively gifted, artistically gifted, and gifted in the area of leadership. So first, intellectually, cognitively gifted refers to a child whose abilities, creativity, and potential for achievement are so outstanding that a child needs exceed differentiated general education programming, adversely affects educational performance, and requires specifically designed instruction and support services. So when we talk about intellectually gifted, it pertains to a child whose cognitive abilities are markedly more advanced and often learn faster. We can identify these individuals just like when they have an easier and faster school learning that leads to academic talents, or they gave more time and efforts on cognitive activities. Also, a child excels on this field when he or she can adapt the systems easily and think critically about one issue or problem. The best example to be remembered on this area of giftedness is that a student uses an advanced vocabulary, readily comprehends new ideas, thinks about information in complex ways, or likes to solve puzzles or problems. The second area of giftedness is academically gifted. The students or individuals in this area show the potential to perform at a substantially high levels of accomplishment when compared with others of their age, experiences, or environment. The students tend to show unusual abilities in one or more area, such as in mathematics or in reading aspect. Therefore, the best thing to remember on this area of giftedness is that a student may be academically gifted if he or she has exceptional memorization ability, acquires knowledge quickly, or enjoys talking with experts in the field of his or her interest. The third one is creatively gifted. When we say creatively gifted, these individuals or students are quick to think and make connections between things, where they tend to link the new information to the existing one in order to arrive at new insights or ideas. So basically, a student may be creatively gifted if he or she comes up with several solutions to a given problem, creates and invents in unusual and imaginative ways, and or has a vivid imagination. The fourth area of giftedness is artistically gifted. Artistically gifted refers to those students who exhibit a strong sense of creativity, explore and use interesting materials that can produce one idea and eventually leads to another. Meaning, the students who belong on this area show fluency of imagination and expression. They have wide range of sensibility in certain areas where they can't get their ideas down fast enough. The most important part of being artistically gifted is that the child works frequently on its favorite art form to the point that no encouragement is needed. Example, a student has an unusual ability for expressing self, feelings, or moods through art, dance, drama, or music. Also, he or she exhibits creative expression or has an unusual ability for seeing and observing things in detail. The fifth and the last area of giftedness is gifted in the area of leadership. When we say leadership, you are passionate on what you do, you love your work, and you are committed to create a change and achieve it at the same time at your highest level. You will know if you or that student excel on this area if they would be able to reason out critically and are or is flexible in thought and action. Leadership gifted children knows how to deal, accommodate, and guide its constituents or members. They have the skills to lead and motivate others to achieve success. And of course, they have the capacity to stand as the representative to voice out the thoughts and problems of others. In short, a student may be gifted in the area of leadership if he or she assumes responsibility and follows through, uses judgment in decision making, sets goals and accomplishes them, can organize self and others, and has self-confidence. Therefore, we have to take note that not all gifted children fit a typical profile, such as a child who is underachieving or lacks confidence and etc. It is critical that these children are identified and receive appropriate programming to meet their needs. So that's all for the areas of giftedness. So much for that. So now let's proceed to the last subtopics of this topic, the giftedness, which is the challenges of giftedness. So there are 4 challenges of giftedness, namely the boredom, disruptive behavior, social difficulties, and perfectionism. Giftedness can come with its own challenges. For children, common issues include: first, boredom. Gifted children are not just smart, they learn and relate to the world differently. So, in the recesses of their memory, most gifted children recall the joy of learning, their innate curiosity, and the spark of discovery when learning was neither slow nor tedious. When they don't feel the fun and not being challenged anymore, of course, the gifted students will be frustrated and bored at school, which will result to a struggle for a teacher. Why? Because the gifted one will become a distraction for other students as they have nothing else to do and they believed that they have completed whatever the task they are working on advancedly. In other words, gifted children may be profoundly bored in traditional academic settings. Boredom can feel intolerable to children, especially if they have other challenges such as ADHD or anxiety. Second, disruptive behavior. Disruptive behavior happens when gifted children who feel disengaged in class become impatient, irritated, or confrontational. When kids lack productive outlets for their talents, they may use their gifts to misbehave. That is why it is very important, of course, to guide and help them control and balance their abilities to avoid any further issues or problems. Third, social difficulties. It is indeed a difficult thing to view. In some cases, The gifted or talented may have trouble finding similar interests to other children, especially at their age, as they don't have the same level of capabilities. That is why some gifted children struggle to fit in with kids at their age. A child who is obsessively interested in physics might not understand why their peers don't want to do some science experiments with them. Besides, it's easier to find friends when interest and intellect are similar and corresponding well. Fourth and lastly, perfectionism. Gifted children may hold themselves to overly high standards. They may experience extreme self-doubt or shame when they aren't the best at an activity. While it is normal and healthy to have high expectations, it is also important to make sure that these expectations don't negatively impact the child's or student's mental health, because there are some tendencies that will lead to obsession, which is not good and obviously not a healthy practice for a child. Instead, help them realize and accept that perfection is unattainable and find ways so that you can set reasonable yet high academic goals. Take note, when properly nurtured, giftedness can offer a path to a rewarding life. Also, with the help of the professionals such as the therapist, families can optimize their child's happiness and potential. To sum up the overall contents of this topic, the giftedness, I conclude that it is very important to note that not all gifted children look or act alike. Giftedness exists in demographic group and personality type. It is important that adults look hard to discover potential and support gifted children as they reach their personal best. So, in this slide, these are the references or sources of all the informations we included in our presentation for this topic. Without further ado, to end this discussion, in behalf of Group 10, let's all recite and be informed about giftedness through this quote. What makes a child gifted and talented may not always be good grades in school, but a different way of looking at the world and learning. By Chuck Grassley. That would be all. I hope that you have learned something from our discussion. Thank you and God bless. Keep safe everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Justin, and to all our presenters for your reports. Guys, we hope that you learned something from our presentations. Thank you for watching and God bless everyone. Stay safe.